Welcome, lovely one, to the Meant for More podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford, and I am building the world's most empowering Meant for More movement, leading millions of heart-led purpose seekers from feeling insignificant to invincible. So I truly hope you enjoy this next episode. Our next guest is the amazing Fiona Harrold. Fiona Harrold has been known as being the UK's top life coach. She now specialises in helping get people in the press, get their stories in the press so they can make massive impact. She is the author of at least 5 books, one of which changed my life beyond recognition that I'll speak about in a moment. How to Reinvent Yourself, Be Your Own Life Coach, the 10-Minute Life Coach, and other books. I'm sure you will find this conversation intriguing, engaging, and inspiring. Enjoy. This is going to be an unusual beginning, Fiona. So I owe you a heartfelt debt of gratitude and a great honouring, because in 2004 I read your book, and I know we've met several times since. I read your book, and at that time, I'm going to take people back 21 years. I was at the train station. I do not read books, and I picked up your beautiful blue, the 10-Minute Life Coach book. I read it on the train up to Scotland. On the way back, when I returned from Scotland, I picked up a bottle of wine and a new book, because there was a question in it that I now know changed my life beyond recognition. So far, you're taking all this very easily in your stride. I'd gone from doing sales, it's all I'd ever known for hotel groups. Loved it. I was popular. I was great at it. But your question gave me a Meant for More moment. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? That unlocked, that it was so cleverly put, unlocked everything I do today. Not all at once, because that would have been terrifying. Yeah, for the world. Yeah, and so from that, I retrained. I've invested heavily in my mission, my purpose on helping people be unstoppable. And that would not have happened without you and your book. So not one single interview was ever started this way. And I just wanted to massively honour you and the work you do in the world. It's life-changing. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, here's what I would say. I'm taking that, and we should take it absolutely for the contribution that we make in the world. And so I'm going to acknowledge you, Lisa, because the truth is you were ready for that question, and you were ready. And I'm glad it came from me. It might have come from somewhere else, but look, it came from me. You were ready for that question, and you were also ready to take action. Sometimes people do write email, message, whatever, saying, hey, I read your book and it really changed my life. And I always like to say, first of all, thank you so much. That's very kind of you and very generous of you. But the fact is, you changed your life. You took an idea, you took some inspiration, and you ran with it. Because inspiration without implementation will leave you very frustrated indeed. It's crucial that we get the inspiration and then we take the action fast. Is it always going to work out? No, not necessarily. But we get to become that person. We get to become that person who's an action taker.
Mm.
I got this inspiration, and it was about 3:30 in the morning last week, and I'm just thinking whether, I'm not even sure that the person came back to me. But you know what's important? That you get to be that person. that you get to be that person who is fearless and who takes the action, regardless of the outcome. Now, look, we all want to set ourselves up to succeed, right? So you're not going to be emailing or messaging people with insane ideas that one is not qualified or able to fulfill on. But taking the action without you having a guarantee or certainty that they're going to say yes or even get back to you at all, that's freedom. That's freedom. That's how you break through and get results that other people go, oh my gosh, how did you do that? That's amazing. You're so lucky. Mm-hmm. Really? Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So,
I agree. I agree that it's the action, and it isn't. It's freedom is what we're all living for as well, isn't it? We all want to be free, free of something, financially free, emotionally free, burdenless. You know, freedom is the alchemy. I want to ask you, because I start off with the question of a time in your life where you knew you were meant for more. And I know there's been lots of moments that you've known you've been meant for more, but is there a particular moment that stands out that was a real catalyst for you, where you had that dawning of I'm meant for more, and then you took obviously action?
yeah, definitely, Lisa. What a great question from you.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Northern Ireland in the 70s in the worst of the troubles, when Northern Ireland was fighting each other. And, every day there was something. And we got put out of our house. It was a thing. It happened. We were Catholics living in a Protestant area. And so we were homeless overnight, us and 20 other Catholic families. And we did what you did at the time. We just broke into an empty house. It was the Wild West. There was no rules, and nobody was coming to the rescue.
How old were you? I'm putting a picture together. How old were you?
12. And we eventually got rehoused. And I remember one day, a few weeks after we'd moved into this new house, I remember one moment, walking up the path. I'd been down to the shop to get my dad 20 Benson and Hedges. Back in the days,
Yeah.
right, when 12-year-olds bought cigarettes for it. So I was walking up the path with my Benson and Hedges, and I just stopped for a moment, and I saw our new house ahead of me. And I looked, and it just seemed so narrow. It was a new council estate that had just been built. And the house just seemed so small and so narrow. And either side of me on the path, the houses also seemed like they were crowding in on me. I felt constrained and cramped. And everything just felt so small. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, oh my God, I can't live here. I cannot live here. This is not for me. I'm not going to live my life here. I'm doing a bit of a deal with God. Help me out here, God, or whatever. I'm not going to live here. I'm not living my life out here. I know there's more for me.
Mm.
I know I'm meant for more. I know there's a bigger life out there somewhere else. And that was my turning point, that moment.
12.
At 12. Look, if you're in a situation where your neighbors are getting killed,
Yeah. Yeah.
on a regular basis, people that you know. I had a friend at school, and his dad opened the front door at 7 o'clock one evening in the winter, so it was probably pretty dark, and he was shot dead. We had the guys who delivered milk. One day they didn't come because their house had been ambushed during the night. That's why they didn't come.
Yeah.
Because they weren't alive. So in a situation like that, you have a phenomenal incentive to want something different, to want something more. And maybe you don't have to come from a place that's like a war zone like that to have that feeling, that incentive to want more, to go for more, to set your sights on more. You could just be someone who comes from a small place, has grown up in a small place, and you just know this place. You can't expand. You can't be the person that you could be in that place. So for me, it was just maybe an extreme example of that. But that day, for sure, I made a decision. I even said to my dad, listen, I'm definitely not going to live here. I think I'd quite like to be a newsreader. So at the time, it was Angela Rippon or Anna Ford. Like, they were amazing. They were on TV. And my dad and myself both agreed that I should definitely start to speak a little bit more like this. And I started to speak a little bit more like this from that day forth. I made a plan that I would do really well at school, because those were the days when getting into university, that was your passport if you were from a working class background. Having a degree, whoa, that was the thing that could take you places. And it was true at the time. So I started speaking like this instead of talking like that. I'm sure lots of people will have a judgment on that, but hey ho, there you go. Because I knew that day I wasn't going to live out my life in Northern Ireland. I knew I was going to leave at maybe 20 or something, and that would be it. I would mix with different people. So I needed to make myself, easy to understand. So that's what I did. I focused on school. I did really well at school because my goal was that degree, was getting into university, and I knew that was the beginning of something more. So 12 years later, I was sitting in my little flat in Brixton, South London, and living the bigger life, or at least I've begun. I discovered coaching, and
How did you discover coaching? Because I think you were, and correct me if I'm wrong, the most prominent first person that I feel like you brought coaching alive in the UK. I'm just going to make it sound ancient, but it must be over 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that is accurate. Yeah, at that point, and we're talking probably 30 years ago, at least, I'm in that little flat in Brixton on my own, and I discovered this coaching thing. But great question, how did I discover it? I'd been living for a year or two as a bit of in a bit of an experiment with life as a counterculture person, a bit of a political social activist. At a point in time, I decided I got to get something different from this in my life. I think I'm meant for more. Another one of those moments. So I left the squatting life behind, anarchist life behind, and all the people I'd been living with and associating with, and I moved myself into a little place. And I knew I needed to change my mind to really have a different way of life. I'd become a little bit of a victim. Oh, the government, the council, the this, that, and the other, And I found this person in London, also called Fiona Shaw. And she, not the actress, she was a self-made, self-styled, self-created person, way ahead of her time. She was really doing, she called it self-esteem consulting. This is before the word coaching was invented in this way. And it was really Louise Hay type of thing. It was change your life, change your thoughts, science of mind, all of that. So I discovered her, and I thought, my God, this is great. This is exactly what I need. Because I said to her, listen, I used to think in a really positive way. My dad was a real self-improvement person. He's a salesman. And I've got to get back to that way of thinking. I've let myself go a little bit. So I stayed with her, and I was her client. And then one day she said to me, listen, I actually think you could do this. I said, you think so? She said, yeah, I'm certain. I'm absolutely certain. Because you're absolutely obsessed with this. Like, you spend all your time reading books on it. And I said, well, no, that is true for sure. You've made great progress yourself. You're very, you're easy to work with. I think you could do it. I said, my gosh, that's amazing. So we did a deal. I had no money at the time, and I became her apprentice. She taught me one-to-one, and in return, I did anything else and everything else she needed to make her life work. I kept the place clean. I literally cleaned the toilet. I made her food at lunch. I picked up the dry cleaning. I welcomed clients at the door. She had premises in just off Tottenham Court Road. So I just made myself very, very useful. And in return, that's what I got. So she handed me clients as she felt I was getting ready. And then one day she said to me, listen, I'm going to change my life. I've fallen in love with I think it was one of the waiters from the restaurant underneath where she had rooms. And we're moving to Sicily. I said, why, that's terrific. Sicily or Sardinia. Yeah, but here's the thing, I'm going to give it all to you. I was like, oh my God, do you think? Yeah. And that's what happened. She handed the whole thing over. So then one day I saw an article in the Times, and it was about this thing, this phenomenon that was really, really popular in the US, and it was called life coaching. And I'm like, OMG, hello. That's what I do. And in that moment, I became a life coach. And sometimes in life, you just got to give yourself permission.
Yeah.
Nobody told me I was ready. Nobody gave me a certificate. Hello, there was no training anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So who would I be waiting for? What permission would I be waiting for?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to say to yourself, shit, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Today, I'm anointing myself. I'm deciding that I'm ready. And I'm a life coach. And that's exactly what I did. Now, don't get me wrong. I had spent 18 months at least with Fiona, washing the floor, washing the toilet, doing whatever needed to be done. And in return, I got a fabulous one-to-one tuition. I also spent just about every penny I made plowing that back into personal development courses, everything that was going on in London at the time I was there, because I knew I had to develop myself to be as good as I possibly could be. There was no life coaching course.
No.
And the irony is that as soon as there were, guess who was invited to come along as a guest speaker and even put courses together? So
Yeah.
I'm saying that not to, hey, aren't I wonderful? But sometimes we just need to remind ourselves we can do stuff.
Oh,
Like,
you absolutely are all of those things. And I was just doing a little video this morning about women rarely, it came from a coaching session I was doing last week. I said to a client, do you know any women that actually say to each other, yeah, I'm brilliant at this? And she went and she paused. And both of us thought for ages, as women, we don't say, I'm
yeah,
brilliant at this
yeah,
or that. And even when we do compliment ourselves, we then caveat it with, I'm not saying I'm brilliant, but why shouldn't we? Because Fiona, you are. And I know you think, well, other people should say it, and I have. But we should speak to our brilliance. And now, not, you stood out on the shelves back then. I mean, what number book was the 10-Minute Life Coach? Was that your first book or your second
but that
book?
was the second. So be your own life coach. That was the first. That was January 2000.
I don't know why. I mean, 10-Minute Life Coach, it doesn't take 10 minutes. But it made it accessible, did that title, didn't it? I mean, why did you call it the 10-Minute Life Coach?
Do you know, the simple truth is when you work with really big publishers, they tend to have people who are very good with things like that. And they go, what about something like the 10-Minute Life Coach? I said, that's great, I can do that. Yeah, for sure. They came up with a title from Be Your Own Life Coach. I said, that's great, that's terrific. But, I love what you're saying about acknowledging our brilliance. I tell you, I really think the person that you need to have that conversation with first and foremost is yourself. Because my dad was this salesman. He was a door-to-door salesman. He sold vacuum cleaners and washing machines for the Hoover Company. And he was the best in Northern Ireland. And he was the best in the country. Best in the company. Every year he'd win the awards. And his secret for success was this. He used to say to me, Fiona, don't ever try and sell something that you're not already sold on yourself.
Oh, yes.
Sell it to yourself first. So I remember when I was sitting in my little kitchen in Brixton and I thought to myself, God, I am going to do this life coaching thing. Yeah, I am. That's what I'm going to do. And I thought to myself, well, look, if I'm going to do it, I might as well just be the best. Now, some people could think that sounds a bit egotistical, and to be honest, it probably was. But it's not a bad thing, is it?
No.
I mean, a little bit of ego, hello. But I also wanted to be the best that I possibly could be. So that's why I invested and still do so much in my own development. If I think I can learn something from someone, they can teach me something, I am there at the front of the class with my card. So I sat down and I really declared in that moment how my life was going to be. And I wrote it down, and I wrote things like, I'm going to be Britain's top coach. That's what I'm going to be. I wrote all these things down. And it was only a matter of time before the book deal came and before other publications like the Mail, the Telegraph, wherever, were saying things like, she's the country's top coach. She's, the top coach in the UK. So I'm sharing that because sometimes we've got to sit down and we have to have a cold, sober conversation with ourselves. And we've got to go, okay, here's how it's going to go. And then I'll tell you what else happened. I got a call from Hodder & Stoughton, one of the biggest publishers in the world. And on the same day that I'd had a half-page feature in the Telegraph. And she said to me, the commissioner editor said, well, can you write? And I said that thing that we all need to say when opportunity comes, which is absolutely. Of course. How can you even? And she said, well, can you write fast? And I said, absolutely, of course. So I had a 5-figure book deal in my bank account within 5 days. I have never in my life written a single word of a proposal. It's always been a conversation, a chat. I've written proposals for other clients. When you're seen, when you're in the press like that, that's what happens. But anyway, I got this great deal, and I sat down one day to start writing it in my little living room. I'd moved to the countryside then, Lorraine-on-Thames. And I sat down, oh my God, not a word would come, Lisa. In fact, the only words that would come were, who am I to do this? Oh my God, I've overstretched myself this time.
And done it now.
Hello, I've done a degree. Yeah, I've done it now. I've done a degree in English and politics. What, in the name of good God, has that got to do with telling people how to live their lives? I'm not a trained anything. And then I remembered those words from my dad all those years earlier. Tell it to yourself first. And I thought, oh my God, I need to try and sell myself to myself. So I wrote a list out. And at the top of the list, I wrote reasons why I am uniquely qualified and perfectly positioned to write this book. And I took a pen, and eventually something came, and then something else came. And within a few minutes, I'm like, hello, who else is there? Of course I am. And off I went. So you have got to do that process of selling yourself to yourself, probably quite often in life. Because if you're going to step out of your comfort zone and really go for more and make it happen, you got to be sold on yourself. You got to be on side. If you've got doubt and hesitancy, other people will feel it. You will hesitate to move forward. And you don't want to do that. You want to move forward boldly. So sell you to you first.
Speaking of doubt, you are human. Do you ever feel self-doubt? And what do you do? I mean, I feel like doubt can come in a flow, but it's not permanent. But it can be if you keep spinning down the thought of it. But for you, do you ever feel self-doubt?
Never. I'm joking.
Psychopath.
Exactly. I think it's probably healthy to question oneself, but then you have to be able to deal with that quickly, because if you stay there and you spiral, that's not healthy.
Yes.
That's a type of self-indulgence, frankly, because that's just obsessing about yourself, and nobody gets any benefit from that.
Yeah. It's almost like a form of self-harming, isn't it? And self-sabotaging to stay in doubt that's not factually true.
Yeah, absolutely. So the moment you find yourself doing it, you got to snap out of it. And the way that I snap out of it, I mean, sometimes on a Monday, for example, I wake up and I go, oh God, can I actually do this? This? And sometimes it's just like, life, can I do this? Because there are other things going on in one's life, family stuff, and it can just pull you down and weigh you down, frankly. So I think it's really important you have ways to lift yourself. So every single morning I listen to people who lift me. I usually end up reaching out for Joyce Meyer. So she's actually a pastor in the US. She has the biggest female ministry in the world. I find her sensational because there's a bit of Bible, there's a bit of scripture. I grew up a Catholic, so that speaks to me. But also she's very practical. She's like just a very practical speaking person. And I feel that really lifts me. But I might during the course of the day listen to some Tony Robbins. I still love a good bit of Tony Robbins. So what I'm saying is make sure that you've got people like that who will lift you up. And then, to quote Joyce, quite frankly, do it afraid. Do it afraid.
Yeah.
Do it afraid. And what I like to do, especially on a Monday morning, is I like to get a couple of good big wins in before 8 o'clock, before 9 o'clock. So this morning I got up and I have a client I wanted to pitch the mail for something. I had that done by 8 o'clock. That was my big push. I had another potential client I'd reached out to this morning before 8 o'clock. Now, I'm not calling them in the name of God, but I'm sending an email. I'm sending, hey, Helen, I know that didn't quite work with Giovanna. I think this could work. What do you think of this? And I know I've seeded that. And it could well be she'll be back by the end of the day, in which case we've got a heck of a feature on the way. At the same time, this other potential client is huge. He might come back, he might not come back. Either way, I've taken big action before 8:30 in the morning. Take the action. Do it afraid. And also, sometimes you've just got to be that person you want to be, and you've got to let go of the need for anybody to approve of you. So I shared this publicly. I didn't say exactly what the feature is because the feature is going to trigger people, so I'm not going to do that. But I saw a chap being interviewed, I think about 10 days ago on YouTube, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's actually a really good story. And I think that story should get out there. And sometimes you've got to take action without knowing the outcome for yourself. Sometimes you just got to do the right thing, what you feel is the right thing. Be that bigger person. So I emailed him, by the way. I didn't know him, but everybody's easy enough to find. I found him, I think it was a Friday night at 9 o'clock. I'm in bed scrolling. I thought, I'm actually just going to email him. So I emailed him and I said, listen, I've just seen you on YouTube. I really think you got a strong story. I think I could place that in the Times, the Telegraph. So 11 o'clock the next morning, I got a call. I'm sitting in my car in Sainsbury's. I'm just about to, after Pilates, I'm just about to drive home. And the phone rings. I don't know the number. I pick it up. I said, hey, Sean. Okay. I got your email. Tell me more. I'm really interested. So I said, well, this is what I do. He said, well, is there a fee? I said, I reached out to you because I think you got a heck of a story. So I'm happy to do that because I just think that story needs to get out there. He said, actually, thank you for that. I got an even bigger story. He told me the story and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my word. I'm going to be honest with you. Would you like me to tell you what the story was?
Yes.
It's going to trigger people, but I'm going to tell you anyways. This man was the closest friend of Charlie Kirk in the UK. He had brought Charlie Kirk. He's a religious man. He had brought Charlie Kirk 7 years ago to the UK and helped him set up Turning Point in the UK. He said, that's the story. That's the story I'd like to tell it. They have photographs. They have texts. And we were best friends. We went on holiday together. So I said, shit, that's a heck of a story. So I said, leave it with me. And I sat in the car and I pitched the story to a writer that I know on the Telegraph. And she said, whoa. I said, I know. She said, let me go straight to the features editor. This is huge. I said, I think it is. So I made all of that happen and it became the biggest feature in last week's Telegraph. It went online on Wednesday and then it was the front cover on Thursday.
Well done.
So, yeah, sometimes, I mean, that's a huge thing. That is a huge thing. So sometimes you just got to take the action. You don't know the outcome. I was going to pitch him for another story, which actually would have been a lot smaller. it would not have been the lead feature. Somebody's probably thinking, yeah, but what's in that for you, Fiona? Do you know what? I don't actually know right now. I know for sure if I wanted to call the features editor of the Telegraph right now, he'd take my call.
And sometimes you just have to do things that don't equate financially, but it's a leap of faith, and it's knowing what a leap of faith feels like that isn't, I don't know the word to go with that, but that you know, that you trust your exploration in it. Yeah, I think that there's many.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I find myself thinking at some point along the way, what is in this for me? And then I stopped myself thinking along that line. I thought, no, that's not why I reached out to him. I wanted to keep myself, because it's hard in this life of ours where it's a bit competitive and we all got to make money. And I don't want to be someone who is only always ever hustling. God knows I've done that, a lot. I brought my son up by myself and I put him through private school because he was dyslexic. He really needed that. So, I became quite a hustler, and I'm like, got to bring that money in, got to make those calls. And I just thought to myself, I just want to do this for the right reason and leave it at that. And if something else comes as a result, but I don't want to find myself thinking, well, wait a minute, how can I make this work for me? What's in it for me here? I just thought, let's leave that for a moment,
It's one of those things that feels like something will come back from it, but no, it doesn't have to be from the source. It's that kind of, I feel that. There's a lot, just changing the subject a tiny bit. I've noticed that a lot of people are using the phrase, it doesn't feel right now. No, I don't mean as in being coached, but whatever it is that they're going to step into, as though they're using a higher intelligence that says now's not the right time. What do you say to that?
I think they might be right, but they may not be. I think you got to question. Really what the underlying truth is. Like, for example, if money wasn't a concern, would you still want to do it? Because quite often, money is the concern. And it's just good to know whether that is the concern or whether it really is like it's not the right time. I mean, I'm a big believer in getting on with life. Maybe I'm just at the age or stage, Lisa, where I've probably got more time behind me than in front. So I'm not hanging about. It's like I'm getting on with things. So I just don't know, there's no guarantee of when there would be a perfect time or a right time. So I think it's a good reminder for all of us. That time is actually our most precious commodity. And if you want to do something, you might want to just get on with it.
Yeah. Just share, because I think I've got lots of people that listen to this that might benefit from what you do. Just share what your area of expertise is right now, because I think it expands and refines, doesn't it? And lands.
Yes. Well, I was initially a life coach, and then I morphed into business coach. But I'd always used the press. I'd always understood the power of the press. I'd always done that for myself. Like, so when I'm sitting back in that little kitchen in Brixton, I realized I just didn't have money to pay bills. I didn't have enough clients. I thought, I know I'm on the right path, but just not enough people know about me. So I wrote a letter to, it was about 20 publications and journalists saying, hey, this is what I do. Maybe you'd like to try it. I think it could work for your readers. And, after about 30 goes and refining what I'm saying, one person came back and did an interview. And 6 weeks later, at 7 a.m, the phone rang. Back in the day when phones are attached to the wall and you got to work, thinking, oh my God, who's died during the night? And I picked up the phone and a woman said, is that Fiona Harrold? I'd like to make an appointment as soon as possible, please. And it transpired I'd had a feature had just come out in a magazine called City Limits. And she said, yeah, I'm reading it. I'm in Covent Garden Tube Station. I think you're going to be with us. My God, I put the phone down and it rang again. And it rang all day long. Till 4 o'clock, I'm still in my pajamas. I'm having to call like my neighbour, Nigel, to come and answer the phone. It was crazy, but my life changed that day. I got booked up for over 3 months with a waiting list. People going, don't worry what time it is. If you get a cancellation, I will be there. My income went up by over 500%, and my life had changed forever. And I saw the power of the press. Because people, when you're featured in the press, yes, you can get a lot of attention and, God willing, clients and cash flow, but also people see you differently.
Mm.
Nobody asked me about money. That was not the first question. People just said, how soon can I come and see you? When do you have spot? So I saw the power of the press to confer authority and credibility like nothing else. Nothing else. So I always used the press, but I was always coaching, as part of that. And then well, 2 years ago, I moved from the country back to the city, back to London. I thought, time to come back. And about 6 months after that, I went to do a talk in Dublin, in fact, in Ireland. And the organiser said, all those topics that you normally talk about, they're all gone. You're too late. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. So unless you can come up with something different, we don't have space for you. I said, oh, no. She said, there's got to be something. Come on. I said, well, maybe I could talk about getting in the press. She said, yeah, that'll do. Nobody's talking on that. So I put together a 15-minute talk. I went to the event. I paid my money. It was a pay to speak, and it wasn't cheap, I can tell you. So I rocked up and I did my 15 minutes. And I felt something change in the room. As I walked off stage, half the room were following me. It was insanely. I had my son there, Jamie, helping me on the table. And we had about 100 people just around the table. People are coming up to Jamie saying, listen, take a picture of my name tag, give it to your mum, tell her I'll pay. Don't worry about the free session. Because I did that usual thing of, hey, for the first 15 people to get my free offer, I'll do a call with you and I'll show you what getting in the prep, that type of thing. It was insane. And I ended up, within about a month, 6 weeks, having a brand new 6-figure business. It was crazy. It was crazy.
So do you
People
feel
just saying, I just want press. I don't want anything else. I don't want any coaching. I don't want to learn. I just want you to do press for me. And that's what I do now.
would you say you're a PR agent?
Yeah, we have a PR agency. I have a team of 5 who work with me. That's what I do now. It just took over everything. I just let go of the coaching. I just didn't feed it, and it was there. I was so overwhelmed and slightly confused at the time. I had a business mentor at the time, and he was saying, do it. It's obviously what you should have been doing. In fact, I'm sure I've said that to you before. You just keep resisting it. I don't know why. And I went to a shaman, and I said, dear God, help me. This is happening. What do I do? She said, you do it. That's what you do. You do.
It's a bit like you were, I don't know whether you felt it. To me, it felt like all the normal doors were shut, so you had to say press, and like it was meant from that moment. Do you believe that things are meant?
Yeah.
From a higher?
100%. This is what I should be doing. I had resisted it for so long because I thought it was a bit shallow, to be honest. A bit fab. Hi, darling, how are you? Yes, let's get you in the Telegraph, sweetie. I did. But the truth is, when I look at my life, the signs are there, and the signs are always there in your life. The signs are always there.
Yeah.
Well, we got put out of our house when I was 12. We broke into these empty houses. The council, who were Protestant, said, you need to get out of those houses because you've broken every law conceivable, and you're on your own. And we said, well, we're council tenants. Where do we go? I mean, you're supposed to help us. Yeah, well, tough. So somewhere my dad had this idea, him and some of the other families, they went to a newspaper. We had a feature in the newspaper. Suddenly, the council found us a place to live. So truthfully, I saw the power of the press when I was very young.
Mm.
And we knew, and I certainly knew, nothing else could have brought about that result. Nothing. No politician could have done it. Nobody could have done it. That was the power of the press. So I guess I've just always had that thing about the press. I've known the power of it. And I never, ever, ever had any interest in small publications that were easy to get into mainstream. Big time. Because if you have a message to share, if you've got a difference that you want to make, why keep it small? It's a little bit like Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins is very controversial with the let them theory. Let them theory, the book, has broken every record in the world. It is the biggest selling non-fiction book of all time. It's blown everything out of the water. And she's also the most listened to woman in the world, which could also make her the most influential. The reason that she's doing what she's doing and she has that impact is that she has always understood and used the power of the press. She knows the power of getting an idea out there to the world. When you go on her website, the first thing you'll see is a quote from Time magazine. Mel is helping millions with her message. Then it's the New York Times, the Boston Globe. So there are people who would say she doesn't do it as well as someone else. I think she's called Cassie Phillips, who says, that was my idea. I brought that idea out 5 years ago. Maybe you did. Maybe you did. But the truth is, ideas without implementation are very limited. And it's always going to be the person who is best known, who has the biggest impact, who wins. Mel maybe didn't know about it, but she took it and she ran with it. She took it out to the world. And I think that's a great thing. I mean, when I was getting a lot of press, I'll just say this, when I was getting a lot of press, apparently there were people who were having chats in chat rooms back in the day as to whether Fiona Harrold was any good as a coach at all, or she was just really good at getting in the press. And who knows? Maybe I wasn't the best, whatever that is, but I became the best now. And that gave me impact and influence, and of course, great opportunities.
I was going to ask a question about ideas. Do you believe that a higher source drops ideas into us as vehicles, and we either take action with it, or we just know that we've had the idea? And if we don't take action or big enough action, then the idea drops into somebody else and then they go and do the good in the, like it was, the idea doesn't belong to anyone. It's just who can utilize it for the highest good of humanity. Do you believe in anything like that?
150%. If you have that great idea that's going to make a difference, you think, to people's lives, get it out. It's incumbent upon you to get it out. Do not sit on Instagram and share it ever so politely with your followers.
Because somebody else will pick it up and will know how to dominate with it.
Will come along and run with it. Rightly so.
And so, just in closing then, do you work with any particular industry type that you specialize in, or are you able to work with anyone and everyone? Who would you love to work with?
Great question. I love Mind Valley, and I started to do a little bit with them. Love Mind Valley because of the impact they have. I've reached out to a couple of people recently that I really want to work with, but I won't say their name publicly. But I guess wellness is, broadly speaking, is our interest. People who are making a positive difference in the world. I would never take someone on who I didn't feel was going to make a positive difference in the world, because I'm amplifying their power in the world. I don't want to do that unless I'm comfortable with that impact that they're making. So wellness, thought leaders, organizations who've got something to say. I was thrilled to work with Marianne Williamson. I think it was this year. She was over in London And that came about purely through me reaching out and saying, I want to help. And then it ended up becoming a client, a paying client. So absolutely thrilled to get people like that to get their message out. And also into places where, mainstream press, where it might not normally be. Yeah.
Lovely. So in closing, what would be one line, one message that you would give out to people as a priority?
Get your message, get it clear, get it out there. Get your message, get it clear, and get it out there. You have a unique contribution to make in the world. Do not hang about. And the signs are there in your life from the get-go. From the get-go.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Fiona. Thank you for all the wisdom that you've given us today, all the wisdom that you've always been given and will continue to give. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. It went like 10 minutes. Amazing. Bless you. Thank you. My pleasure.